Well, hello. I appreciate your interest in a Holland Lop from us here at Apopka Hollands. The video that I'm going to share with you today, it's going to be an extensive and exhaustive video. It's intended to answer most all questions that you may have, especially about our reservation process, because that is one of the things that we get probably the most inquiries about. So I'm going to break this down in a couple of different topics throughout this video. So if there's some specific information that you're looking for, you can always skip forward in the video and find whatever it is you're looking for. So for example, if you're just looking to find out about reservations, feel free to skip through. But again, it's going to be an exhaustive video, so there's going to be a lot of topics we're going to try to cover. And at the very end of this video, we're going to try and answer some of the most common questions that we get and have got over the many years of doing this. I will tell you that I'll try not to repeat a lot of the same information, but some of these topics kind of overlap, so it's almost impossible not to do that a little bit. But I want to start off with a foreword and kind of give you a little bit about our background and our mission. Again, we've been doing this for quite a while, but our number one goal, the reason why we do what we do, this is more of a hobby than it is anything, more than it is a business, something that I enjoy doing. And our number one goal is to breed healthy Holland Lop rabbits. That's our number one goal. Above temperament, above size, above color, above all the other things like that. And you may say, well, why? Why is that so important? Well, if we breed a rabbit and it's more important about the temperament and the rabbit has malcollision or snuffles or it's not completely healthy, well, you have a rabbit that you can hold, but you may not be able to hold it but for a couple of months. It may die. You may have a lot of vet bills. And the same thing with its other issues that it could develop, whether it might be, it's the best or the ideal color, but it doesn't have the good health, like I mentioned. So above all, our most important mission is to breed and to provide our customers with the healthiest Holland Lops we possibly can. With all of our years of experience, that allows us to invest all of that in and making sure that's possible. Because anytime you're buying a Holland Lop, you want to make sure they don't have malcollision, which is to do with the teeth, and you want to make sure they don't have snuffles, which is a disease or virus, if you will, that they can get, similar to like a head cold, but it's something that it can be detrimental to your rabbit's health. It can cost you a lot of vet bills, and it's arguable whether it's curable. So that's something you got to pay attention to. You want to make sure you got a rabbit that doesn't have ongoing GI tract issues, things of that nature, that it has some sort of defect with its feet or something like that. So there's just many different things that you want to make sure that you have a healthy rabbit. That's our number one mission. In our experience through the years, we've got over 18 years of experience with breeding rabbits. I have bred rabbits from across the spectrum. I have worked with everything from New Zealand's Flemish Giants, Lion Heads, Mini Rex. I've worked with Netherland Dwarfs, Hot Tots. I have worked with Florida Whites. I mean, just the list is exhaustive of all the different types of rabbits that we have worked with. But we exclusively work with just Holland Lops at this time and have for a few years, thus the name Apopka Hollands. With that being said, you may wonder, where are you guys located at? Well, we're no longer in Apopka. We're right on the edge of Apopka. That's because a couple of years, about 3 years ago, we moved. But that is kind of where we got our footwork, where that we decided to come up with a name and kind of move forward in that regard. So we're a legal entity in the state of Florida. Our reputation speaks for itself. If you go online, you look at our reputation, you'll see we have a lot of great reviews. And there are a lot of people that they wait patiently for an extended period of time just to be able to get a Holland Lop from us because of the reputation and because of the experience that comes with that. So we have a lot of different people that rely on our information. We've become a source or a hub of information from other breeders, source of information from people that are in FFA, 4-H, teachers, things of that nature. And we say that humbly. We're thankful for that opportunity, but with all the many years of experience that we have and breeding literally thousands of rabbits through the years, we use that to our advantage to help our customers. One of the things that's important to know that we're not a store. So this is not like a PetSmart or Petco where you walk in and you browse around and look at everything that's we have there. We are a private residence, and there's always going to be pros and cons to every situation. And one of the pros to that is this is a more personal experience. This is not like some breeder who's mass producing, overproducing, or overbreeding their rabbits, where that they're dropping off certain quantities to a store, and you don't know whether they have genetic issues or whether they're purebred, or sometimes you don't know whether they're a male or female. You get sold a male, and chances are you may not get what you bought. So it is an individualized experience. We are a private residence, and because of that, it means we're by appointment only. Now, if you go on Google and you search us out on Google, and that's where you found us at first, you may notice that there's very little that is mentioned that would pop up right away that would let you know that. Matter of fact, we've had people that have shown up to our residence before unannounced, and we have to explain to them that we don't have anything available. And unfortunately, if you've driven a long distance, we hate that. That's something we can't avoid. But we have tried to change that algorithm with Google, or the details within that, but unfortunately they don't have it set up so it makes it easy for you to just put by appointment only in there. So, and then every time that it gets flagged, then we have to pay fees and everything else to get our rabbitry relisted. It's a circus, but it's not an easy thing. But thankfully, Google does help us to get the word out about what we're doing. We try really hard to spend a quality amount of time with every customer. That's part of the experience. Sharing information, listening to questions, and responding to that. So that's one of the things that we really like to do. We enjoy that. We do offer a 16.5%, which is approximate discount on most Hollands that are over $100. So what does that look like? Well, if you're an FFA student or a teacher, or you're a 4-H student or a teacher, and you're able to verify that, and maybe you're a college student, your local UCF, some other college student, and you can verify that. Teachers who are wanting to purchase a rabbit for their classrooms, we've had teachers that have bought them and use them in their classrooms as a thing of comfort, especially with kids that are special needs, things like that. It's important for us to remind you that the best thing to do is to follow our Facebook page for updates. That's going to be where we give the most recent, most current, up-to-date updates will be on our Facebook page. It won't be through Google. It won't be through any other source. If you found us on Google search, and that's how you came across our information, we encourage you to follow our Facebook page, because again, that's where we will have the most recent information. If you cannot find the information on our page that you're looking for, you can always text us. That's going to be the best alternative to information that you cannot easily find there. We also have a YouTube channel, and we also have an Instagram account, and you can find more information about where we came from, how we got started, the history. You can find information about our rabbitry, some videos that show some of our setup and things like that that a lot of people have found interest in. So one of the most important topics that we're going to talk about at this time is going to be reservations. So get ready. Get out your pen if that's what you need to do. We're going to talk to you for a few moments about reservations. Now, after the many years of doing this, I have tried nearly every possible reservation scenario imaginable. I've tried everything you can. As a matter of fact, there's even a period of time where the reservations became such a difficult thing to manage when you have many different rabbits that we decided to altogether not do it. We have gone back to doing reservations. I think it's a great opportunity, and I have found that our current system is the most effective because it helps weed out the people who are not serious. I would hate for somebody to not get a rabbit while that someone else that's not serious, because we do get quite a bit of that as well. People that may be, as the old saying, window shopping. So I want you to know that our reservation system, it's not a perfect system. And the reason is because I cannot sell rabbits that I don't have. Unfortunately, we only have a limited amount of rabbits, and we have to remember that if our rabbits only produce 10 rabbits, and we have 30 people that are looking for a rabbit when that litter is due, we're going to have 20 different people that are disappointed, and that breaks my heart. I can't fix that. There's no easy way around that. But still, we do everything we can to help people and accommodate people, even with our busy schedule. I want you to know, because we get this question a lot as it pertains to reservations, we do not have a list per se for you to get on. The reason is manyfold. For one, I work a full-time job. I'm a full-time pastor. I run a business. I own a construction company full-time. And this is something that I don't do as my only thing in life. This is something I do on the side, more as a hobby than it is anything. And so there are times that we may have people that contact us, and I don't have the ability to get back with them right away. And with the reservation system, I don't have a list where I can constantly follow up with that. And my concern is that if I did have a list, I would probably fail at some point, and I would not contact you. And so that's why I tell people the best thing to do is to stay on top of the Facebook updates, follow that page, and I believe that you'll, in the end, you'll be able to eventually get a Holland from us if that's what you're hoping for. One of the things that we need to make sure that we iterate to people and they know is that we do not sell our rabbit babies, our Holland babies, as some professional breeders may refer to them, kits. We do not sell them before the 8-week-old mark. And that is part of a Florida state law that many don't even realize. There are times where if it's within just a few days, we may work with someone per their schedule. We'll probably talk more about that in a little bit. But we also don't sex our kits, our rabbit babies, and provide a price or start reservations until they're at least 6 weeks old. There's a good reason why. I want you to realize that the sex is a lot more accurate if I'm looking at it at 6 weeks old versus 2, 3, 4 weeks old. Because as you can imagine, the rabbit's genitals will develop quicker, or they develop to the point where that we're more accurate in the assessment of what they are. And to me, that's important, because I would much rather, if someone's going to reserve a rabbit, I don't want to have a hope so, maybe so. Usually with most of our accuracy, we're usually going to be somewhere between 85 to 100% accurate at 6 weeks old. There is every once in a while, there's the chance that we have a rabbit that has something that is called split penis, or you have one that is very undeveloped in its genitalia, and it's hard to determine exactly what it is. And every once in a while, even the best professionals, if you want to call us that, get it wrong. So just keep that in mind. Also, why is it important for us to sex, price, and assess them at 6 weeks old? Well, the overall condition of the rabbit, its body type, its colors, all of those types of things, which can affect the price, and also your decision, are more distinct, they're more developed, and at that point, it's wise. It also avoids a lot of disappointments. One thing that I want you to understand is that during the lifespan of a rabbit's baby, their GI tract system is very fragile. And so even though in the past, along with a lot of other breeders whose success and survival rate is probably closer to the 65% range, we have gone to what I would estimate about 99.9% survival rate. And a lot of that has to do with the feed regimen and the feed that we use. I have a lot of confidence in that feed. We have very few problems with our kits. But with that being said, during the development stage, during the weaning stage, there's a lot of things that can happen because their GI system is so fragile at a young age. And so they can develop GI stasis, and then suddenly overnight they can pass. I would not want to reserve a rabbit before 6 weeks and then the rabbit passes, because there's a lot of disappointments in that. Especially, let's just say, consider that a child had a birthday and they thought this was going to be their rabbit. They've already shown pictures to other people. I think you get the point. and then all of a sudden I have to notify them, hey, your rabbit passed. Is that still possible after the 6-week mark? Yes, but it's not as possible. It's not as practical. So just keep that in mind. Prior to the 6-week age, just before they reach that 6-week mark, when we will post them for reservation, we will post current photos to each rabbit with the following: their sex, you'll know whether it's male or female, you'll know what the price is, you'll know who the parents are, you'll know the birth date of that rabbit, and you will also know the ready date, which means the date that it is able or available to be picked up. You will also know the earmark. Keep in mind the earmark for us. I can't speak for other breeders and how they do things, but the earmark for us is going to be really important. What is that? At 6 weeks old, when we identify each rabbit and we take individual photos, we'll take a permanent marker. We mark the earmark of that rabbit in their ear. That earmark will be important for identifying which rabbit is which, and that earmark will be what you'll need to send me on the reservation morning. So pay attention, very close attention to that earmark. Where can I find that earmark at? Well, that's going to be in the listing photo of that individual rabbit. You will notice if you look back at previous photos where we had other litters, you'll see an example of what that looks like. Lastly, we will post the reservation date, which is the day that reservations start. So before the reservation date, there will be a post about the reservation date, when that will be. For example, this video is going to be used for many other litters in the future, but in this situation right now, currently in the month of December 2025, I have a reservation date of the 10th of this month. So prior to that reservation date, I will go on Facebook, I will post those photos, that information we discussed, and I will let those people following the page know that on the 10th there will be a reservation day. So that is something important. So what about the reservation? Well, on the morning of the reservation day, be sure to already have Cash App downloaded to your phone so that your device, computer. I've never done Cash App. I'm assuming you can do that from a desktop. But make sure you already have Cash App downloaded so that you are prepared and ready to make the deposit. I want you to take in consideration, we no longer accept PayPal as a deposit. We've done that in the past, but it just creates so much confusion when you have too many deposits come from different various places. We also do not accept Zelle or Venmo, which this is something that I know that a lot of people use, but we've never been able to, with our bank, successfully get Zelle set up, and I just don't use Venmo that much, so Cash App is going to be the way to go. If you're a very old school, we've had a few customers like that, and they say, I just don't do that stuff. Well, hey, and you're wanting to get a rabbit for your grandchild, and you're up in age and don't understand how all these apps work, you can always come by our location at our private residence and drop off a cash deposit. But just keep in mind that during the wait, in the transit or whatever, traveling to our location, you may lose the opportunity to get that rabbit. So again, Cash App's going to be your best bet. I want to share a few things that I want you to remember about reservation day. And these are going to be some do nots. So please flatter me here. And do not have multiple family members text us in an effort to get an advantage over other customers. Quite frankly, that kind of annoys me a little bit. And the reason being is because it's almost like somebody trying to cheat the system. So you got mom, dad, and 4 other kids texting at the exact same time that morning, trying to make sure they get the rabbit they want. I understand the reason why you would do that, but it's not really ethical to do it that way. Plus, on top of that, I had that happen a couple times, and it creates so much confusion because then I've got 4 different text messages where I'm trying to reflect on who gave the deposit, where was the reservation, and connect that. It just creates too much confusion. So please, just one person. And with that being said, please, if you're adults and you've got a child that's 8 or 9 years old, please, you do the connection with us, because there are times that we'll have a small child that is doing real well to even communicate over the phone, contact us, and it's kind of awkward for us to do business with a child. So if you would please be the one to do the communicating with us. Now, on reservation day, that morning of, usually we will start early in the morning, and this is going to be our typical protocol. If I ever decide to change it, I guess I'll have to do another video. But please do not text me prior to 7 a.m. on the reservation date, using this month's reservation date that I mentioned, the 10th. So on the 10th, I wouldn't want everybody contacting me at 6:45, 5:30, just trying to get the jump on somebody else. I will ignore those texts. At 7 a.m., that's when I start taking these reservation requests. Now, in the past, we have done 6:30, but we're going to update that, and it's going to be at 7 a.m. Please don't forget that, 7 a.m. So I want to remind you that the best method, if you are really serious about getting a rabbit, please keep in mind that the best thing is to go on your cell phone, go under your appointment reminders or your calendar, and set that date to remind you before 30 minutes, an hour before the reservation time starts, because we go in an order to who contacts us. So what would I do if at 7 a.m. I get 25 people message me at exactly 7 a.m. before it is even 7:01? I got 25 texts. Well, what I do in that situation is I go in the order of whoever has texted me. That's how I do it. I go one by one. And with that being said, please do me a big favor, and all the other people who are serious about getting a rabbit, please do not text me at 7 a.m. and then fall back asleep, because I will typically give people a little grace, a little time, because I know you may be trying to get kids to school, or you may be trying to get ready for work or driving or something like that. But typically I'm going to give you around 20 minutes or so before I move on to the next person if I reply to you and you don't reply back. Because I don't want everybody else to be left on hold all day long. And believe it or not, I have things that I have to do as well. So this is what you're going to need to text me that morning. So pay very close attention. I need you to, first of all, text me the name of the rabbit's mother. That information, again, will be in the photo that is posted on Facebook before reservation day. I will need you to also, in that same text message, text me the earmark of the rabbit that you're interested in, a screenshot of that rabbit, which helps me to visually identify, plus it allows me later to reflect back in text message what rabbit that we're discussing. And then also just a very simple message: I would like this rabbit. You don't have to tell me a history of how many rabbits you've owned and lots of other information that would be unnecessary. Just simply text me a message: I would like this rabbit. Something like that is just as conducive to what we're doing. If there is another rabbit that you may be interested in, and you say, I might be interested in 2 different rabbits, this is the one that I want, and you send me a message and say, hey, I want this rabbit and it's earmarked so-and-so, it's this is the one. But if that one's not available, this is my second choice. That's okay. I don't have a problem with doing that. Just make sure, don't get ridiculous. If I got 4 rabbits, don't send me all 4 rabbits in an order. Try to be realistic with it. But make sure you send the earmark, because that's going to help me identify which one it is. If none of the rabbits that you ask about are available, let's just say that you're looking for a gray rabbit and we only have 1 gray rabbit and it's already reserved, and you're like, you know what, I don't want anything, I only want a gray rabbit. Well, at that time, we're going to move on to the next request. So if you don't share any other rabbit you're interested with, we're going to be moving on in requests. So after, this is what I want you to pay attention to again, after I have confirmed that the Holland Lop that you want is still available, I will then, and only then, send you the Cash App link to our Apopka Hollands page, Apopka Hollands Cash App. And that link is where you're going to make the deposit. Now, this is one of those do nots. If you are a previous customer of ours and you just so happen to have already have our Cash App link, do not just send a deposit without a confirmation and agreement between us. I've had that happen as well before, and someone sent a Cash App deposit on a rabbit that was already reserved. That just creates confusion for both of us. When you're checking out in the Cash App payment process, there's a few things that I need you to do. I need you to put the rabbit's mother's name and the earmark of that rabbit in the checkout notes. So when you get down to the final part of the payment on Cash App to make the deposit, you're going to put mom's name and you're going to put the earmark of that rabbit. If there is enough room in the payment checkout notes, it would be nice to have your last name as well, so it helps me identify. Because and if for some reason that your name on Cash App is Catfish Coolness or something, and your last name is, Desiree or whatever, I'm not going to be able to connect the dots between Catfish Cool and Desiree. So I think you understand. So once that deposit payment is made, at that point, that rabbit will belong to you unless something happens to that rabbit that is beyond my control. I want you to realize that once you've made that deposit, you just send me a screenshot of that payment in the text message to me. After the deposit is made, this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me an email to apopkahollands@gmail.com. And I'm going to spell that out just in case, just for the record. It's APOPKAHOLLANDS, apopkahollands@gmail.com. And when you send that email, I want you to put in the body of the message, I want you to put the Holland that you picked out and put a deposit on, its mother's name, its earmark, and I want you to put whatever the Cash App name, whatever your catfish, if it's Catfish Coolness or whatever, that's what I want you to put in that body, that email. That helps me identify with who made the payment. And I want you to put in that email, please send me the care pack of information. At that point, what I will do is I will reply back to that email as soon as I have the time to, and I will send you a PDF, which will be a care pack information. That's what I call it. And it is over 18 years of my own experience in breeding thousands of rabbits. And that is going to give you nearly everything you could ever need or want to know about how to care for the housing, what's the best housing type, what's the best type of feed, what I should feed, what I should not feed. And that's a lot of great information because when I look at the internet, I see a lot of misinformation on the internet. You look at 10 different sources and you get 9 different answers about what someone's trying to tell you is the best things to do and what have you. So keep that in mind. So that is going to be a care pack of information. That care pack will help you to make good buying decisions. You wouldn't believe how many times that I've had somebody that has rushed out and they bought all kinds of stuff, and then whenever they realize, oh, I bought the wrong stuff, now they got to turn around and take that stuff back to Petco, PetSmart, Amazon, what have you. So during that period of time, now bear in mind we're talking about this 6-week reservation. You've made the deposit, so I'm catching up here. I want you to please keep in mind you will have 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks before the pickup date to get everything that you need. So please start preparing, getting everything you need so that you have everything set up and ready. So when you bring your rabbit home or you come to pick it up, you got all you need. And again, please don't rush out and buy a bunch of stuff because there's a lot of unnecessary things you can buy that the rabbit just does not need. And so keep that in mind. I will send you that information, and I'm asking you to please read through it thoroughly because you'd be surprised how many times I get someone ask me questions that is all that is answered in that packet of information. So after that deposit, you may ask me, so if I make a deposit, what if I change my mind? That means no refund on the deposit. That's what that means. Because while you hold up the rabbit from someone else who may have really wanted it, it wouldn't be fair in that scenario. And there are times that people hold out, and as the rabbit gets older, it is less valuable to other people in a lot of regards, because most people are going to want it as soon as it hits 8 weeks old. They're going to bring it home at the youngest age possible. So you will need to communicate with me after your deposit is made on a time and a pickup date that will work for both of us. Once you and I have established a pickup date and a time, I'm going to give you our address if you don't already have it. I want you to remember that rarely ever do we keep a rabbit more than 5 days past the pickup date. Why is that? Well, we're not a boarding agency for one, but cage space for any breeder and the ability to house these rabbits is one of the most valuable things I have. And so while I'm feeding your rabbit and giving it a place and taking care of it, unless you and I have another arrangement, we don't typically keep them past 5 days. Well, what will happen if I don't pick it up in a certain amount of time? Well, we try to work with everyone to accommodate their schedule and to keep, them in mind and the pickup dates and all that. But please do keep in mind that your rabbit will be resold if it is not picked up and you're not communicating with me and trying to work that pickup date out. And I think that's only fair. Keeping in mind also that if you choose, say, I've had situations where someone will say the pickup date is 2 days after I leave to go out of town for vacation, holiday, blah, blah, blah. And can we pick it up, 3 days early? Typically, I'm going to say yes, only because that 7th week of weaning is really nothing more than that rabbit being in the cage with mom in that housing for that last week. And there's not going to be a whole lot of difference of whether it's with you or with us. There's a little bit of difference, but at the same time, it's always safer for it to be with us all the way up to 8 weeks. So with that in mind, if you decide to pick it up a couple days early, just know there's a little bit more risk involved in that, because the farther they get closer to 8 weeks and beyond, the less stress affects them. And the transition of changing from mom to, whatever, that's something you got to take into consideration. You're going to need to bring the balance when you come to pick it up. You're going to need to bring the balance in cash. And as of right now, the current price range for our rabbits is going to change because of all the increase in feed costs, vet costs, medication, you name it, across the board, because we've had increases in so many different ways. Our current price range is going to be an average of $150 on our rabbits. So the new deposit amount is going to be $75, which will mean when you pick it up, bring $75 cash with you. I say that because where I live at, I have a lot of issues where people arrive and they can't get logged into their Cash App or, whatever. So they have a difficulty doing that. So just instead of you having to hang around for 30 minutes or drive up the road to try to get a signal and all of that, just keep it simple. Bring the remaining balance in cash. So you will receive a small bag of transition pellet feed upon request. So if you've not been able to purchase the exact same feed that we use, we want your rabbit to have a smooth transition with its feed. So let's just say that you get Oxbow young rabbit and you couldn't get the feed that we use. In that scenario, if you request it, we will give you a small bag of transition feed, and you can titrate that so that each day you give them a little bit less of our feed and a little bit more of your feed. So it makes it a nice, gentle transition, which is very good and helpful for their GI tract system. Now, the other thing I want you to remember is to bring something to put your rabbit in. When you show up, I have people say, can I just put it in my lap? Can I put it in a towel? All of that's going to be totally up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it is better to bring something to put them in. And then that way, if for some reason you're driving down the road and it gets out and on the floor and, it's underneath the seat or whatever, just probably isn't the best. So do keep that in mind. Keep in mind also that we love to share information with all of our customers. I love to connect with people. It's actually one of my favorite parts of what I do. There's no better feeling to me than to have a family show up or someone that's really excited and to see the look on their face when they finally get this rabbit that we have worked so hard and tried to, through the years of breeding and creating some of the best colors and the best type and quality and temperament. It's a really exciting thing. But keep in mind that especially when I have several customers that may show up at the same time, I don't have an unlimited amount of time. And my time is also valuable. So it's I guess the easiest way to say it is if you come and buy a $150 rabbit, it wouldn't be fair to keep me there all day, and $300 worth of time. So I will spend a lot of time, and a lot of these things will be answered with that. But do be respectful to the other people that may be there when you come, and also our time as well, because we do set aside time to do this from our very busy schedule. When you come to pick up your rabbit, we like to get pictures of people when they pick up their rabbits. It's something that people that are potential future customers really like as well. They like to see the types of rabbits that we have and the people that are coming to get them and all that sort of thing. I don't know. It just helps people resonate with what we're doing a little bit better. But that being said, we like to get pictures with our customer and their rabbits. But if you decide you don't want a picture, it's not a mandatory thing. But, if you want a picture, make sure you come ready to get a picture. That way, and you come and say, oh, man, I wish I'd have put my mascara on or whatever. Just keep that in mind. Now, before we get into the questions, this is going to be the section that we're going to talk about some of the most frequent questions, I guess I could say, that I get on a regular basis and have for many years. I want to talk about each one of those. So get ready for that. But let me say this, before I talk about these questions, let me share with you, and I think this will help you feel my heart and the type of person that I am. I also want to share with you a few disappointments. I told you there are some things that are really exciting and all of that, but I want to share a few disappointments, and this comes from my perspective. I would say that one of the number one disappointments that I have in breeding rabbits is not being able to provide the rabbit that someone is looking for. I mentioned earlier, if you got 10 rabbits and you got 30 people wanting one and 20 people walk away disappointed, you may not believe it, but I hate that. I really do. If it was up to me, everybody that wanted a rabbit that contacts me, I would make sure they got exactly what they're looking for. But again, I can only produce what the rabbits produce. And I know that the old cliche is that, breeding like rabbits, but that's not always the case, especially in Florida. With the changing of seasons, rabbits don't always breed as rapidly as you think they do. And given the fact that we're working with a breed of rabbit that carries the dwarf gene, they don't have as large of litters. Because of that, we may have 2 born through the whole process of a litter. Or recently, I had just 1 in 1 litter. Sometimes the litter may be 4, 5, or 6, which is fantastic. But not being able to provide a rabbit is very disappointing, especially if it's a holiday or birthday and gifts that, someone's going to give a child, and I have to get off the phone with them and know that they're upset or they're disappointed or a kid's not going to get something. And also what's disappointing to me is the excuses that we get as to why someone can no longer keep a rabbit. It's really important that you realize that it is a responsibility. It's not a disposable toy. It's not a stuffed animal. And so there are a lot of things that I would hope you would consider before you get it. And when I say that, I mean it in all respect. But you have to remember, from my side of things, how often that I've had somebody call me, and I get this a lot. Well, we can't keep it because we have allergies, or we realize that, we can't deal with the Timothy hay, or there are times that's legitimate. And and I get that. But there are also times that people just make that up because they get tired of dealing with the responsibility of owning a rabbit, and so they just make something up. Let me just be forthright and honest with you. We have a clause in our packet of information that you would read, and that is this: if you get a rabbit from us and you have it for 6 months, a year, this happens, and it happens from time to time, and you're like, I don't really want to keep this rabbit. We have a clause that says if you want to return it to us, in most cases, we will take that rabbit back, unless that rabbit's sick or there's some other, issue. We will take that rabbit back. You won't get a refund or any of that, but you don't have to go do like some people and drop it off in the middle of a neighborhood. Please, whatever you do, for God's sake, don't drop it off in the middle of the woods or on the side of the road. Domesticated rabbits are not wild rabbits, and they don't fare well in the wild. A hawk may scoop down, grab it, a coyote, you name it. Raccoons, just they're very vulnerable in the wild as a domesticated rabbit. So we give you that option. And what I'm saying is, in line with these disappointments, you don't have to give me an elaborate excuse. If you just send me a simple text message a year after you've had the rabbit and you say, this is not really working out, would you be willing to take the rabbit back? Or I'm considering bringing the rabbit back, and we'll go from there. I don't have to have a lot of excuses. I don't have to have a lot of reasons. I don't need a lot of personal information. Most times the people that are genuine, they feel really bad about it, and they hate to do it, and they do get close to the rabbit, and then they, hate because it's a situation they can't avoid, and we try to work with people on that. Another disappointment is a few times that we made a mistake and we mixed up a reservation date and gave somebody the wrong rabbit. That has happened a couple times. Man, I hate that. That's human imperfection. That's, even though I've tried to perfect this system and I go through all these different things, there are times that we'll have 3 different rabbits that look almost identical. Their markings are so close. And for some reason, maybe the permanent marker that we put in the ear at 6 weeks is not as readable at the 8-week mark when someone goes to pick it up and we misread it or something like that. Or we missex the rabbit. I hate all of that. But it's human error. It's something that we do our very best to eliminate. But every once in a while, that can happen. So let me say this. If that were to happen to you, we do everything we can to make it right. What have I done in the past? There's times that I would offer somebody another rabbit on the next upcoming litter that we had for half price. There's different things that we do to try to work with people to show our genuine sign of forgiveness. Please forgive us. We're trying to do the right thing. So also the times that this is disappointing. We've had times that people would talk to us really condescending and nasty. I've had people ask me about the reservation process, not understanding with the many years of experience that we have tried so many different things. And when you only have so many rabbits, there is no perfect way or easy way. I've had people say really nasty and sharp to me, "What is this, a lottery?" And so, no, it's not a lottery. It's me doing the very best I can with what I have. And it may feel like a lottery to some people, and it may feel like, we may or we may not get a rabbit. Again, I'm doing the very best I can. Please understand that. And it's so disappointing when people talk to us like we're small, like, with a sense or attitude of entitlement, because we do this out of the goodness of our heart, and we love good relationships. And I would say 99% of the time we have people that are very kind and patient that work with us. Also, what's disappointing to us is if a rabbit passes away before and especially after it's picked up. Now, that has happened, especially back earlier on when we were using different feeds that were available locally to us that are not as good as the feed that we have right now, and the rabbits would develop a GI stasis or something, and somebody might have a rabbit for a week or a couple days or something, and then they call me up and say the rabbit died. Man, that's a terrible feeling, especially when kids are involved. Thankfully, we rarely ever have that problem now, but that's really disappointing. And we do everything we can to work with people in that situation. How do we deal with that, depending on how long it's been after you got a rabbit, if something happens. We don't extend that out for a long period of time unless we know it was something to do with our fault for a fact, because once the rabbit's in your care, I don't know what you're doing with it. I don't know what you're feeding it. I've found out before that a rabbit somebody got, their kid was feeding it Doritos. I mean, you wouldn't believe the things that we've experienced through the years. Now, I may miss something, but I'm going to go ahead and attempt at this time to answer most of those questions that we get asked most of the time. And this is for the potential customers that may be interested in getting a rabbit. So, are all of the rabbits that I see available, all the rabbits that are in the photos that you have on Facebook, or all these rabbits I saw on Google, are they available? No. We have a lot of past pictures from reservations of previous litters. So typically you can scroll down just a short ways into our Facebook page to see what is available. And if it says reserved on it, then you know that it's already taken. If it's a really old date, like it's, the beginning of 2025 and we're in December, there's a good chance that rabbit's not available anymore. So do keep that sort of thing in mind. So all those rabbits are not available. At worst case scenario, if for some reason that you can't figure it out after you've scrolled and you looked and you're still confused as to what's available, it's okay. Reach out to me via text message at that point, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I have time. The other question we receive a lot is, where do I find what's currently available? Again, in line with what I just said, the best thing to do is go to the Facebook page. That's going to be where the most current, most up-to-date, most recent posts are made. The other question I get, third, is how much are your rabbits? In the past, we have sold them from $80 to $120, but through the years, just like everything else, the prices can change. We've kept our prices the same for a long time. But our prices will be going up as the time of this video. And as of right now, our prices are at $150, and that's going to be the average. I don't suspect we're going to have times where it may be more than that, at least within the next year or two. But for as of right now, that's going to be probably the average benchmark of price for our rabbits, about $150. Every once in a while, we have a color that's not as desirable, or maybe we have a harder time selling a particular rabbit for whatever unknown reason, or maybe a rabbit during the birthing process, mom was cleaning it and it nipped its ear and it's got a little funny scar on the ear or something abnormal. We may sell that rabbit for a discount of price, but for the most part, all of our rabbits are going to continue for at least a while to be in the $150 range. What about temperament? This is probably one of the most asked questions that I get. What about the temperament? What kind of temperament will the rabbit have? I've answered this in previous videos that I've done, but let me do the best I can again. So temperament is something that no breeder can guarantee. Now, they may tell you, we have reason to believe that this rabbit's going to have a really good personality, or maybe they've been watching that litter and they say, yeah, that chocolate otter really seems to be a sweet rabbit, and I get all that. But there's no way that anybody can guarantee a rabbit's temperament or its overall personality. For one, it's awful young to determine that. There's times I've had litters where that one seems to be standoffish, but later as it develops, it becomes the most energetic, fun, sweet, wants to be held all the time kind of a rabbit. So it's really not always easy to tell just by looking at the litter, on the surface at face value. So keep that in mind. But as far as temperament goes, I've given this example and it seems to fit real well, so I'll give it to you again. And that is, some of you that are watching this are going to be parents. And if I was to come to you, say in the NICU unit or in the hospital after you just delivered a baby, and we're standing there looking at your newborn child that's, you know, a week, couple days old, and I was to ask you, is this child going to be the next Ted Bundy, the next Jeffrey Dahmer? Is this child going to be a mass murderer? Is this child going to be the next president, the next astronaut, brain surgeon? You really aren't able to answer that question with certainty, because at that age, it's just too underdeveloped to really give anybody a guarantee of what's going to happen with that rabbit. Now, with that said, I want you to understand that a rabbit's temperament has a lot to do with how you treat it, similar to the way it is the way you treat kids. You know, if you're really aggressive, if you pick up a rabbit in an aggressive way, if you hold them really weird, you try to pick them up by the ears. I mean, so many things that I could use it as an example. If you're doing these things in such a way that makes the rabbit feel unsafe, well, then their temperament's going to be more or less, they don't want to be held. They're really skittish and all that kind of stuff. And speaking of skittish, you got to keep in mind that rabbits have their own individual personalities. And another example I've used in the past is this. I've got grandchildren, and I may have one grandchild that just loves to sit in my lap. I can sit and watch a 2-hour Netflix movie, and he'll want to sit there the whole time. If I get up, he's following me across the room. I may have another grandchild that loves me too, but they like to spend most of their time playing with Legos in the floor. Every once in a while, they'll come over, sit with me for a couple minutes, and get down. In similar fashion, rabbits can be that way. So if what you're looking for, and you say, well, I really just want a rabbit that I can hold 24 hours a day, and I want to be able to sit and watch a full Hallmark movie, and I want to be able to hold the rabbit the whole time, and snuggly and cuddly and cute and all of that, please do us all a favor, yourself included and the rabbit. If all you really want to do is have something snuggly and cuddly, and you don't want to clean up poop, and you don't want to have to clean up pee, or you don't want to have to all of that, or the expense, or the burden, or the shedding of hair, or any of those types of things, the best thing to do, and I don't say this to be obnoxious, but the best thing to do is go to some store and get a stuffed animal. Really, that's really the best thing to do, because this is a living animal and it deserves to be treated like such. So do keep that in mind. Now, with temperament, even though I can't guarantee it, I do want to tell you that one of the biggest reasons that I exclusively work with Holland Lops is because they tend to have a much better temperament. I've raised all different types of breeds. And yes, you can get a really sweet Netherland Dwarf, or you can get a really, sweet Hot Tot or something. But in my experience, the smaller the rabbit gets, I don't know why some of them have been so mean and temperamental. But the Holland Lops have always been so much sweeter, and I've got some really nice Holland Lops that we own ourselves. You may ask, well, how good are these rabbits with kids, along with, do they bite? I have never been personally bit by one of my Holland Lops. Never, ever have I ever been bit by any of them. A pregnant mom may be a little bit more temperamental if you're like trying to mess with the babies, and she's like, get away from my babies or something, but I've never had her bite me. She may kind of step forward, like, trying to make sure who's messing with the babies or whatever, but I've never had them bite me in that regard. I've had people before that they're putting their fingers into the rabbit's mouth and it's nibbling on something on their finger or something, and they say, well, the rabbit's nibbling on me. Well, that's kind of a normal behavior. But if they're just absolutely biting the fire out of you, as we'd say here in the South, then there's obviously a problem. But I've never had that personally happen to me, so I don't believe that would happen. But I'm not going to say that that it's impossible. I just never had that experience myself. You also may wonder, one of the questions I get, how big is this rabbit going to get? Because I want a dwarf rabbit. I want a really small rabbit. Well, if what you're looking for is to get the absolute smallest rabbit you can find, you might be better to look for like a Netherland Dwarf, or maybe a Hot Tot or something like that, because they tend to be smaller than the Holland Lop. Not always, but they tend to be. I don't have time to go into it in this video, but if you research the history on the Holland Lop, the dwarf gene brought in from the Netherland Dwarf many years back in the domestication process, they were bred and they now carry that dwarf gene. The Holland Lops do. So when you hear someone say mini Lop, actually the Holland Lop, as strange as that may sound, is actually tends to be smaller than the mini Lop is. They carry that dwarf gene. They can actually miss that gene. It doesn't happen that often with our rabbits, but every once in a while they will. And if you talk to any educated breeder, they will tell you there are broad does. There's a does that sometimes will be a little bit on the larger side. So weight-wise, if you look on the internet, you may get a couple of different answers, but typically our Hollands, when they're full grown, are going to range anywhere between 4 to 7 pounds. So that's a weight range that you can kind of look at to kind of give an idea. So what I would tell people when they say, how small will it be? It's really hard to distinguish that, because what's small to one person may seem huge to another, or vice versa. And so with that being said, what I typically tell people, they are on the small end, or the smallest end of the medium breed. So, or maybe I could say that they're at the top end of the larger side of the smallest breed. Maybe we could put it that way. So to me, I think that once you have the rabbit in your care, I don't think that the size of a Holland Lop is going to be something to bother the average person, unless you're just looking for something the size of a small hamster or something, because that's not realistic. So keep that in mind as far as how big they get. Also, a lot of the rabbits within our rabbitry, I keep all of our rabbits on mostly a free feed. I don't regulate the feed because I'm trying to keep them within a breed standard, because I'm planning to show them on an ARBA show table or 4-H or FFA. So I make sure that they have plenty of feed. I want all of my rabbits. I'm not trying to starve them or make sure that I'm trying to keep them at 3.8 pounds or whatever. So all of our rabbits, we focus more, again, like I said earlier, on the health. So most all of our rabbits are going to be between the 4 to 7 pound range. I also get at times, are these rabbits going to be good with kids, or are they good with special needs kids? A lot of that's going to be a hard thing to answer for me, because I don't know your kids. I don't know the way you run your household. I don't know things like, do you have dogs that are going to be barking in the rabbit's face? I don't know where they're going to be housed at. So there's a lot of variables that I cannot really say for sure. But for the most part, as long as a child is receptive and that rabbit feels good energy from that child, they're usually going to be receptive and they're going to do good with the kids. No, I don't know that if any animal does really well with a animal having its ears nearly ripped out, or squeezing it so tight that it's about to throw up or something. So yeah, they tend to do pretty good as long as they're not abused. What about special needs kids? We've had parents that have come and that they have kids that are on the spectrum, and I've got a granddaughter that's on the spectrum. I get it, I understand. I can't really answer that, because as most of you that have dealt with the kids on a spectrum or special needs, many times those children can be verbal or nonverbal, or maybe they are aggressive or they're not aggressive. Really, that's going to have to do a lot with your child's ability to treat the rabbit in a way that the energy that is being put off is not threatening. Here's one important thing that I may have missed that's important to remember. In the animal kingdom, the rabbit itself is prey. It is not a predator. So because it is prey and not a predator, they tend to pay more attention to the way that maybe they're being picked up, or any loud noise, or any sorts of things that may make them feel unsafe. So do keep that in mind. Another question that we get a lot is number 7, how big will it get? Again, I talked about that a little bit, and I'm just going to tell you that that's going to determine on how much you're feeding it. If you're overfeeding your rabbit, if you're giving it way too many treats, it's going to end up being overweight, and so that will affect it. Sometimes a rabbit can be just extra fluffy. If you were to shave that rabbit down to its skin, you would think, wow, that rabbit's a lot smaller than I thought it is, because it has really thick fur. So, but again, 4 to 7 pounds, about the average. Should I get 2? That is a question I get a lot. Should I get 2? Does it need a companion? Will it be lonely? Some breeders are going to tell you, yeah, get 5. I'm not like that, because for me, it's not about trying to sell as many rabbits as I can. Quite frankly, if I could probably sell rabbits every single day if I had the rabbits to do it, but we don't. So, should I get two? In most cases, no. It's okay to get two, but I'm going to give you a few tips and pointers that are really, really important for you to remember. I never recommend people get two males. And most every, except for maybe a very, very few exceptions, have I had two males that will get along and won't try to kill each other. And I think it's just an alpha dominant thing. Once they reach that male senior age, or when they get around 5 to 6 months old, sometimes even earlier, they will start becoming aggressive towards other males because they want to stand on business in their territory, if you will. So sometimes you can get away with them being together up till about 4 months old, and then you need to get a cage and separate them. But they'll chase each other around the cage. They'll pull fur, bite each other, that kind of thing, because they're trying to demand that their territory be respected. They don't typically do that with a female. They will show the signs of mating behavior. So keep that in mind. If you're real funny about that and you don't want your 12-year-old seeing a rabbit that is showing mating behavior to another rabbit, females will do it to females, males will do it to males. They don't really understand what they're even doing. It is genetically wired into their DNA. So they just, for lack of a better way of putting it, they're going to hump whatever that they think. Sometimes it's a thing of dominance, and other times it's for a mating behavior. But two males, I don't recommend. It rarely ever works. If you ever find somebody that it did, they need to, buy a lottery ticket maybe. Two females is more idealistic, but even two females sometimes may not get along. Sometimes two females can be together for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden one day they decide they don't want to live with each other anymore. And what I mean by that is having them housed in the same place. The larger the space that they're housed in, the better the chance that there's not going to be any problems. But two females, and the best thing to do if you want to get two, and you are going to get two because you have two kids or something, you want both of them to have their own rabbit, then I would recommend in that situation that you get two rabbits closer to the same age. They don't have to be exact same age, from the same litter. And with that being said, I prefer when people buy rabbits from us that they don't get them from the same litter, just simply because if for some reason we made a mistake, even with all of our experience, and one turns out to be a male and the other's female, we don't really want a brother and sister mating with each other. That's really not the ideal situation. So that creates too many genetic issues. So it's really better that you get two females from a different litter. And as far as their temperament that I spoke about earlier, when it comes to males and females, like which should I get that question a lot too, and I almost missed that question. Is it better to get a male or better to get a female? It really depends on what you're looking for. It really depends on what you like. I personally kind of like the males. If I was only going to have one rabbit, I would probably want to get a male, but they have their pros and cons. Male rabbits tend to spin around in the cage, and if they spray or urinate, it may go outside of the cage. So if you don't have urine guards, they can get that outside of the cage. A female can back her rear end up to the corner of the cage and pee right out of the side of the cage without urine guards. So it's not a whole lot of difference, but just keep that in mind. As far as which one's sweeter, most people will say, for the most part, males tend to be what people lean towards if they're looking for, if temperament is the most important thing to them. But that's not always going to make or break. There's times that a female will have a better personality and temperament than a male. It just really depends. Like I said earlier, it's kind of hard to figure that out. I also get questions from people at times where they'll say, should I, are they litter trained? Number 9, are they litter trained? I get that a lot. We do not litter train our rabbits at 8 weeks old. That would be sort of like trying to litter train or potty train a 4-month-old child. It's a little early. It's not that you can't go ahead and start it. There's a process that I recommend that'll be in the care pack that you can follow, but they do not come litter trained. It's just not practical at that point. So they're going to be pooping and peeing just like, normal rabbits would. Are they already fixed? Number 11, a question we get a lot. Are they already fixed, spayed, neutered? No, they're not. They're too young for that, number one. And it would be really expensive for us to undertake that, because the next question we get is how much does it cost to get them spayed or neutered? That's something I hope you look into beforehand. So if you're thinking I'm going to get 2 male rabbits, or I'm going to get a female and I'm going to get a male and I'm going to get the male fixed, that would work. And that is a conducive situation. It's probably better than it's definitely better than 2 males, and it's probably better than 2 females. But if you don't get that male fixed or that female, you will most likely end up with babies from those 2 rabbits at some point. But what does it cost? I mean, it's all over the place. I'm going to say at this time, somewhere between $300 to $700, $800. It's ridiculously expensive, but I think a lot of that has to do with the anesthesia part of putting such a small animal under. Someone sent me a link here in the early part of 2025 of a place in East Orlando, and I want to say they were doing it for $250, maybe $350, and they felt like that was a pretty reasonable price. But do keep that in mind, because it is expensive. Some people will ask me, so do I have a neuter or spay recommendation? Because we don't spay or neuter any of our rabbits. I can't personally speak to that. But again, there is a place in East Orlando, and I think at one point I shared that on my Facebook page. So if you scroll back, you could probably find that. I get all the time. Number 14 question we get a lot is, where can I find the rabbit's birth date? A lot of times that question comes after they've already got the rabbit. If you look back in the photos that are shared when we list them, in that photo and the information that's either on the left or the right, typically you're going to see where the DOB or the date of birth is. I get another question quite a bit, number 15, and that is, are they purebred rabbits? I have people ask me that all the time. And the answer to that question is yes. Every single rabbit we have comes from many generational proven Holland Lops. I don't just take any rabbit. I don't have some mini Lops and some Holland Lops and some lion heads, and I don't do that. Everything we have comes from proven lines. Many of the lines that I've worked with for many years, and anytime that I purchase rabbits, like I just purchased some recently, I purchased them from people that are reputable breeders who have been working with rabbits for quite a while, and many of them are show breeders who actually show their rabbits as well, because I try to get good prime stock, and that way when I do breed, that I can produce good quality rabbits. Another question that I get a lot is, do you provide pedigrees for your rabbits? No, I don't. You may wonder why I don't. Well, for one, because I pastor church full-time, I own and run a construction company full-time, and I'm a very busy person. I just don't have the time I wished I did to keep up with that. I keep up with most everything through card notes that I have in my rabbitry, so that I know for a fact of who's been bred to who through the years. But as far as putting all that different information to paper, providing that to the customers, I don't do that anymore. And to be quite honest with you, I'm going to say something that may not be popular with some show breeders, but I'm going to say this anyway, because this is my experience. A lot of the pedigrees that are out there that people have are not worth the paper they're written on, because I cannot tell you how many times through the years when I bought a rabbit from somebody, and the big thing was, I'm paying $300 for this rabbit because it's got a great pedigree, and come to find out that it was a made-up pedigree. It was a copied and pasted pedigree from a rabbit that had died, and they just used it because that rabbit was the same color. You wouldn't believe the foolishness that goes on, and so you can't always believe everything that you see on those pedigrees. And so I don't put a lot of stock in that. I've had times before that I would have a rabbit that's supposed to be like from the great breeder, and it's got all these great genetics and bloodline. Then I go to breed it, and I find out it's got malcollision, which is a tooth defect, or I find out that rabbit has got a fuzzy gene, which I absolutely hate the fuzzy gene. That's just me. I don't like it. And you look at the pedigree, and it goes back about as far as you can go back on a pedigree, and there's absolutely nothing anywhere. But every time I breed that rabbit to another female, I keep getting fuzzy Hollands. So there's just a lot of stuff that I wished I had time to go into, but we don't do pedigrees. The majority of the people that get rabbits from us do not need a pedigree to be able to show it in 4-H or FFA. If it makes you feel better about the rabbit itself, I can't always accommodate because of my schedule, but I try to give people pictures of maybe the parents to allow them to see. But I think that our reputation, by and large, hopefully speaks for itself and what we do breed here, and the mission and direction that we have. I have people that ask me from time to time if the ears of a certain kit or baby will fall. They have what I call the helicopter look. It's where both ears are they're not sticking up, but they're sticking out to the side and just barely maybe down a little bit. I think it's funny looking. I think it looks cute. But what that is, that's the development stage where their ears are falling. And quite frankly, as a Holland enthusiast myself, I like to see that. Because for me, that typically means that the ears are going to be thick. They're usually going to be shorter. I don't like because Hollands are not supposed to have an ear dragging the floor. They're not supposed to have super long ears. They have an ear that's distinctive with a certain line with breed standards, and that is typical of a Holland Lop to not have those really floppy, long, super long ears. They have long ears, don't get me wrong, but anyway, so yes, their ears are going to fall. If for some reason you get one and one of its ears don't fall, you tell me and we'll make it right. Do you ever sell adults? Number 18. There are times that we do sell adults. Usually when we sell an adult, it's going to be a breeder rabbit. So a breeder rabbit that has spent the majority of its life not as a personal pet, so to speak, and as a breeder, its temperament may be a little bit different. So that's why most people like to get them when they're really small or really young. We've got a lot of really sweet breeder rabbits, don't get me wrong, but their disposition is a little bit different than a rabbit that has had one-on-one attention a great deal of the day, every single day, because it's the only rabbit in the house. I think you understand where I'm coming from. So we do sell adults from time to time. Most times they're going to be a lot cheaper than what we would sell babies. What should we do if we no longer decide we can care for the rabbit? Very important question. I think I talked a little bit about this before, but number 19 question that we get a lot. What do I do? What should I do if I can't take care of it? My landlord says I can't keep it. My husband doesn't want it here anymore. I've developed allergies or any other thing or reason. What should I do? Please, again, do not drop it off in just the middle random place in a neighborhood, the woods or somewhere else. Please don't kill the rabbit. You don't have to take it to an animal shelter. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. Contact us and we can try to take that rabbit back and rehome it, because we have a good resource of some incredible customers. So another question we get, do we trim their nails before the pickup? We don't always. One of the things that I try to do in the regimen that we have that has created a good success rate in survival is try not to stress the rabbits out as much as possible. There's this idea that when you buy a rabbit, that the one thing you want to look for at the top of the checklist is a rabbit that's been handled a lot. And while handling does help in their temperament, if you handle a rabbit a lot, you can stress the rabbit. And in doing so, you can also stress other rabbits that are in that litter. And by stressing them, you affect their GI tract system, which can cause them health problems and can cause them GI stasis, which is basically bunny constipation, and they can die. So sometimes if I have time at the moment when someone picks them up and they're like, I have no idea, I don't even want to attempt it, do you mind trimming their nails before we leave? sometimes I will demonstrate that and do it at that time. But typically I do not trim their nails right before that they are to be picked up. I'm super hopeful, because that was a lot of information. I'm super hopeful that I covered everything. If I did not, maybe I'll have to go back and edit or add something in at some point. But with all that said, I do want to say thank you one last time for the time you took to listen and the interest that you have. And hopefully we'll be able to connect. And if you don't get a rabbit on the next litter or this current litter, hopefully you'll be patient, because it'll be worth it when you get a good quality, purebred, healthy Holland Lop. May the Lord bless you.